I see more and more in the science reporting about new thresholds being achieved in the lab with playing around with instrumentality of, things we understand through the mode of our understanding of quantum physics. Time crystals being created and virtual teleportation of data probably, but who knows? In principle, once that's established, maybe they can start moving matter about, which is a whole strange concept in and of itself. Is it really the same thing when it gets to the other side after it's been disassembled and then reassembled? Especially if it's something alive with a consciousness. What might come out the other side? Who knows? Who knows? It could be a very, very, very interesting, in a scary way, doppelganger. And how would you know? It's genetically identical to the original, has all the characteristics, have been mapped and transmitted. Various new developments of instrumentality to isolate subatomic elements that have certain kinds of interesting properties in subatomic physics, and that's kind of where the quantum mechanics operate, is below the atomic level. It's very small and very subtle, but it profoundly affects everything. And I kind of wonder if we're not like a small child who's discovered that by propping a chair up against the sink in the bathroom, he can climb up and just barely get his outstretched arms and hands up into the medicine cabinet. And he can't see what he's doing, really, so he doesn't really understand, but he's just able to get at it. He doesn't really know what he's doing either, because the fucking thing was put out of reach for a reason. To wait until he had matured more to get access to it, so he would know what he was doing, have some context and sense that allowed him to properly interact with what was there. And I can't help but wonder if that's an analogy of what we're doing right now. I mean, it could be that what you get into when you start playing around with quantum physics is that you get into something that our consciousness is quantum physics, and how we interact with the reality of space and time as we understand it is, entangled. It's quantum physics. Everything is connected. So it does matter what we do. It's not like, well, we'll keep it contained in the lab. What if we're playing with things that resonate throughout the entire universe because of entanglement? I mean, every electron here on Earth is entangled with every other electron in the entire observable universe, because they all were entangled from the moment of the first popping into existence in the very beginning. Everything's linked inexorably. And so, I don't think we're mature enough in our consciousness to have any idea what the implications of these things are, because we haven't even developed our own consciousness to understand how this stuff works in a way that's most pertinent to us and our existence as we know it. And we could be messing about. We might be like that child who just managed to get the bottle of dangerous medicine and thinks it looks like candy. A tragic story of a youthful developing consciousness didn't make it because it didn't know what it was doing, and its reach exceeded its proper grasp. That's what I wonder. Because, on the one hand, I'm amazed at these achievements. On the other, I look at us as a group, and I'm like, for fuck's sake. I mean, we're in a pretty sorry state. We couldn't even survive the way we came. We lack the genius for that. And yet here we are able to muck about with things that are of profound significance to our very existence, and maybe the existence of everything. We're going to fuck around and find out. That much is a given. That much is a given. But what will we find out? Will we just blink it all out of existence? Will we send it off on some skewed tangent that is a literal hell? That the parameters have changed just enough that it's really fucked up now and we can't escape it. We don't know how to undo what we've done because we didn't know how we did what we did. We thought we were doing a certain thing, but it resonated with other things that we don't even know about yet. It's a huge amount of risk, but it's not going to stop because I worry about it. Because the scientific minds, they just have to keep going. And there's always been this thing that you can design the experiment safely and that it's containable. Things like CERN, where they're dealing with huge energies and, getting down into the quantum realm of subatomic physical interaction. And maybe one of these times they'll bust a particle or whatever, create some subatomic entities, and you get something come out that they didn't even know was there to come out. They weren't looking for it because they didn't even know about it, and they have no idea what's happening when it does because they don't even know what it is. They don't even know how to conceive of it yet because they're going by a certain ruler of measurement of things. We continually look at this stuff. I mean, there's a recent thing where they discovered that using quantum process, you could actually alter metals, like perhaps turn a base metal into gold by interacting at that level. And that's what they were trying to do with alchemy. And we all laughed at that. Oh, it was primitive, whatever. All of our apparatus, all of our method of how we do chemistry, organic chemistry, is based on that foundation laid by alchemy. And I think that they may have been doing things not with our modern method, but perhaps through the sheer instrumentality of their own consciousness. Some of those things that people were trying to do, some people may have actually done it. They may have understood some aspect of it that we don't, that we'd call, superstition, witchcraft, whatever, ritual, whatever. But they may have understood something about that, because the whole concept of being able to meddle with and alter your reality, which is the concept behind casting spells, magic, whatever, when they talked about that sort of thing, you're talking about using your will and you change everything. Well, that would be a quantum shift that did that, and that would be you accessing that by just your own consciousness, by knowing how to get it in tune with how the harmonious dynamic heterodyne of all this is. And maybe you can't find that with the ruler we're using, but they found another way to get to it. Who knows? And so, I think that therein lies the danger. We're using this ruler that's not considering anything but a certain way of looking at it. And it could be so much more. We have no idea. It could come to the point where quantum mathematics shows a lot of things we thought were just tall tales from our primitive past actually could have very well fucking been. And most likely did, because we might find out that, wow, this is like what happened is like what's described in these stories. Just like our cosmological theory of the origin of the universe oddly lines up with a very old creation story. People may have known a lot more than we give them credit for. We may be a lot stupider compared to them than we're even willing to consider. I think it's entirely possible as a scholar of ancient civilizations and languages. I think that our arrogance is completely undeserved. I don't think we have a clue. The more we find out about some of the marvels of the ancient world and how far back civilization goes, I think it's entirely possible we might just discover that we're actually the savages. We're actually the primitives, that our gaudy new technology ain't really shit compared to some of the stuff that they had. Who knows? But we're getting closer and closer to finding out. Hopefully we don't poison ourselves to death eating a bottle of aspirin, or get our meaty little hands up in there poking around and come across an open razor or something. Who knows? Who knows? But I think we should be careful.